is TIMILEHIN, the chairman of the Young Lads from Ibadan branch. I chair the forum alongside my executive, and I like to mention them individually. We have Temitope as the vice chairman, Adebisi Timisola as the secretary, Timilehin Victor Latubosun as the assistant secretary, Kayode Karim as the treasurer, Taiwo Paul as the social secretary, and Omobolanle Awere as the publicity secretary. So these are the executive of the Young Girls from Ibadan branch. We had been in power since June 24 up to now, and I had my pupillage at with Adekola Karim Esquire, Ofin, popularly known as Ofin, the chairman elect of the NBA Ibadan branch, and by extension, I was also with Rahim Sheyi, Wasiu Rahim Esquire, for about a year before having to establish our own firm of OLAYIWOLA and legal practitioner. So I think that would do for the introduction of my person. Thank you, Mr. Epong.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are glad to have you, and we are also honored to interview you. As the chairman of the Young Lawyers Forum, what are your roles?
Simplicity, the chairman of the forum is more or less, if to before I begin to give an analysis, some of the roles of the chairman, I like to take cognizance of the provision of the constitution of the Nigerian Bar Association, which has now provided for a mandatory situation for the chairman of the forum to be co-opted as member of the branch leadership across Nigeria. And this is because it is believed that the chairman of the forum is to act as a bridge or conduit pipe between the YLF and the NBA leadership, particularly to engage bar leaders on issues affecting Young Lawyers Forum, to address and advocate on good remuneration for young lawyers. And then some of the other roles of the chairman of the forum is to come up with academic programs and knowledge exchange programs that can put young lawyers on the rightful path, to whatsoever choice of the profession they might want to venture into. Take for instance, a young lawyer or a new wig who wants to be specific or want to specify in litigation. It is important to come up with programs, knowledge exchange programs, having to attach them to seniors in the lines of mentorship for them to know, for them to be rooted in some of these various aspects of law. It's also important to organize this program so that the modern system of the legal profession can be something that they are quoted to. So basically, the of the forum chairman of the forum is to particularly conduct programs that will increase the welfare of members of the forum, and also organize programs that will boost the intellectual quality of members of the forum, and also maintain a relationship with the bar leadership. So I want to believe that answers that for roles of the chairman of the forum. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. From what you have said so far, it appears to me that you were prepared for this role. And that takes me to my next question. The question is that your emergence as the chairman of the Young Lawyers Forum, was it an accident, or it's an ambition you have nurtured since your call?
Mm, you know, Accidents. I'm not a fan of that word, but it's not an ambition that I've nurtured since my call. But call to service, and there are some things I regard to as being situation that comes as a matter of circumstance. I was the secretary of the forum between 2022 to 2024. By my own opinion, to my own knowledge, I want to believe that I did, to an extent, I gave my best. and I was able to understand that there is a need there is need for the interest of the forum to be represented, and there is need for more that seems not to be done at the present administration, at the last administration where I was secretary, needs to be done. So I thought it within myself, and that was when I could say that yes, the ambition to become the chairman of the forum is something that I began to nurse alongside alongside the input of well meaningful members of the bar who happens to be my of the forum who happens to be my friend. So I would answer that it has not been an ambition since call. Since my call, the intention is just to do very well in the profession, become a Sikh and all of it. But while in the process of pupillage with Adekola Karim, we were invited to bar activities, and from that, call to service came. We were able to put in our best, and it was important that we also lead the forum, to a distinct level. And to, in our own opinion and to our knowledge, I want to believe that we have also done that. We have led the forum to, we have raised the standard, and we are confident that it would continue to keep shape. So I think that has been answered.
Okay. Sir, a lot of young lawyers after their call do not deem it expedient to participate in bar activities. Please, can you tell us what piqued your interest to participate actively in bar activities?
For me, I think I'd been in that shoe too before. I was a young lawyer, ordinary, and that's why it falls back to where you have your pupil, your first history in the profession. Ordinarily, if I started with a principal who is not a committed member of the bar or is not active, there's every possibility that I might not be that into bar activities. But for young lawyers who do not have the idea of some of the advantage of the bar activities, it puts you ahead of other members. You get to know the current happenings, you get to know the current policy, the current framework that is regulating the profession. You get to know situational reports. So I would say that what piqued my own interest in bar activities was my principal.
I've heard severally from colleagues that they do not have interest in bar activities, probably because of the way lawyers conduct themselves during that period. What piqued your own interest in bar activities?
And first, it is important to know that in getting involved in bar activities, it's now um, classified in two different phases. There are some persons they are referred to as bar practitioners. Then there are some persons they are active bar members. It is important. What piqued my own interest so that the question can be properly addressed. Still falls back to my roots. In practice, having recourse to the fact that my principal was a very active member of the bar. I earlier said that I worked with Adekola Karim Ofins, popularly is very active in Ibadan bar, and that is also the spirit of mentorship. You have a principal who leads you not only in the context of law or practice, they also guide you on how to be an active bar member. It is important. It also helps because it puts you ahead of your contemporaries. You get to know situational reports, current happenings, regulatory policies, from the nationals. These are the things that are discussed, at the bar meetings, welfare, abuse of power, assault and all of it. So you get to know how to address this, and you get to know that some of these law enforcement agency, judiciary officers, they have limits, but just ensure that as a young lawyer, you do not end up being a bar practitioner. A bar practitioner they are persons, they are lawyers who engage in bar activities for the purpose of sourcing for income or relying on bad activities, for income. For instance, being in power, and then trying to convert bad properties, for your office use and the like, and then having to travel, having to go here and there with politicians during election times for income, in expectation of reward. We have seen situations like that some persons cannot survive on their practice if they have not converted some of these things. So it is important that you get involved, but don't get lost by being a bad practitioner. So I think that answered the questions. I found my roots. What actually moved me into being an active bad person is rooted in my history in the profession, and that's my principal. So thank you, and I think that answers the question.
Yes, sir. You had earlier mentioned that your role as the chairman of the Young Lawyers Forum is to serve as a conduit pipe between the forum and the bar. You get their fears, you relate to the bar, and then you proffer solutions to their problem. And also that your role is also to ensure that their welfare is taken care of. Now, across the country, young lawyers have a lot of concerns, and one of their major concern is on remuneration. How has your administration been able to tackle the issue of remuneration, particularly lawyers that are underpaid or that are paid below the minimum wage by their principals? How has the administration been able to tackle that?
So to answer that, the issue of remuneration has been something that is nationwide, national, but particularly speaking with respect to our own administration, the only means we devise, particularly with respect to Ibadan, and if you see, there are several firms, distinct firms out there that are looking out for young lawyers to work with them, and it's the practice of some of our very notable firms here in Ibadan, not to give proper remuneration to their young lawyers unless a member of their office resign, and then that becomes reason why some of this remuneration goes, better. But that's not too much something that the forum appreciate. We believe that yes, we are open to, some of us are open to learning, then we should have better pay. So what we have done is when some of these firms reach out to us, we have a benchmark which we have set, and then we reach out to us that, oh, we are in need of young lawyers and all of this. Then we say to them that okay, this is the benchmark for the remuneration that that um, we feel that you should pay our lawyer. If that cannot be paid to a young lawyer, we don't get to recommend anybody for that firm. So every other discussion as to personal practice structure is something that we feel could be within the discretion of the employee and the employer. But for the purpose of remuneration, because we want to ensure that priority is given to that under welfare, we make sure that when a firm reached out to us, immediately we say, "But okay, this is the minimum benchmark we feel young lawyers, should be paid in Ibadan." And by extension, we have had issues with firms paying core members for as low as 10, 15,000. Are just coming from the gathering of core members being their CDS, and some of these we had some of these complaints. I was there alongside with the chairman elect, and that is to be looked into. I feel some of these principals and some of these firm uh in their mind of the opinion that since the core members are now earning well above 70,000, whatsoever they might be giving should be a stipend. It's there's little that we can do to that, because they are more of government employees, that I mean the coppers. But for the ones that we can do, young lawyers, even for the For the core members, we are also advocating for a better remuneration. But for young lawyers, substantive one that have served, and the principal is seeking, you know, asking or requesting that we recommend young lawyers, there is a benchmark for the remuneration with which we give to them before we can recommend young lawyers to them. So that's what we have put in place to ensure that we do not have so many young lawyers being underpaid.
If I may ask, sir, what is the benchmark?
What we have looked at for new week, you know, because some of our principals, some of the firm believes that, in fact, the word the word you are not that coming to offer me anything is very common. So what we have, this administration, and with respect to this economy that we are now, we have looked at the sum of 150,000 for a new week, between the year of call of 0 to 3, 0 to 3 post call, and then for 3 to 5, 5 to 7, who have who has had experience somewhere or the other, coming to, that can now be a discourse between the principal and such young lawyer. But something reasonable, should be around 200, 250, between 200 to 300,000, So let's say for new week, because that's basically the set of persons who are seeking out there for employment. So I would say 150,000 naira. That's what we are always benchmarking whenever we receive those calls from seniors that, okay, we need young lawyers and the like. So I think that's answer it. Only if you have another advice, comment and question, and I'm open to answer that. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mm.
Um, the he had mentioned that most principals or most employers will say that these young lawyers do not have what to offer them, and it's something that we have heard as long as we are in the bar, that young lawyers are raw and inexperienced, and that they who are the employers or the senior lawyers are the ones impacting in them, and as such they are not entitled to be paid, or if they are paid, it should be at the discretion of the employer. Now the question is, do you subscribe to something of such? What is your position?
You mean in situations where
Where the employer says that you do not have anything to offer me, I'm the one giving you impacting experience into you, you are not coming with brief, you use my brief to learn, and all those things. So if I'm going to do all those things for you, I'm not supposed to pay you a big amount of money, or you are not even supposed to be the one negotiating the payment I'm going to give you. It should be at my own discretion. So the question is, do you subscribe to that position, or do you think that position is wrong?
first, I think, yeah, I think I would take exception to the use of, you are not supporting me, you're not bringing in anything, you're not doing that, and the likes of it. Because um, if I would not be giving any impact, there's no need for you to open the door of employment to me. Yeah, but basically, I've said that we are the chairman of the forum is like a bridge, a conduit pipe. There are situations where we have had senior members of the bar repeatedly make complaints about members of the forum. You cannot expect to want to get a proper remuneration, and you are not at your best peak, of offering the best of your best. You cannot want to get proper remuneration and you are not readily available to want to do all that your principal say you should do in line with, normal employment standard of our profession. So I also feel, the pain of or the grounds of our principals. It is important for young lawyers to also be up and doing. We have seen situations where Members of our forum, some of them, when they communicate to principals their intention to resign, there is always um, a tactical appeal, not a direct one, an express one, a tactical appeal, to ensure that such young lawyers is retained, and that shows that the firm understand that that young lawyer is germane to that office. We have seen situations whereby young lawyers will also resign from offices, but the principals of those offices still call that young lawyer to the office, to carry out certain um, to go on certain professional um, errand, for them. That shows that that firm still trust in that young lawyer. So if you are giving your best, if you are giving the best of your best, either by express remuneration, you will be appreciated, or by extension to by extension of your principal recommending a brief for you, you will be appreciated. So it is important. I also feel, some of our principal girls, and then I also understand that young lawyers advocate. So it should be a two-way thing. It should be give your best, get remuneration. Sometimes for a principal who is not showing too much of technicality smartness, he might not be on the express um, situation of salary payments, but by recommendation of brief to you as a young lawyer who has left the firm, or who feels like, okay, this brief is something my young lawyer should be able to do. So I think that um, answers your question in all totality.
Thank you, sir. Now, the next question is this. Young lawyers, those within the post-call age of 0 to 5, because they felt they are being underpaid by their principals or by their employers, have decided to engage in businesses other than the practice of law. For those persons, in your own perspective, sir, putting in putting in consideration the provision of rules of professional conduct, what do you think about such conduct of the young lawyer?
Well, the practice of law found that engaging in other business, particularly to earn income when you are doing the practice of law. So, in my perspective, my own opinion, I do not see that as being correct. But there are situational instances that you do some of these things based on passion. It's by all moral standard, it may be allowed or considered, but the practice of law found that you engaging in other business, to earn income, especially having to maybe be a makeup artist, um, situation of finding yourself in businesses that would not polish you, would not give you a polishing legal practitioner personality. So I think the answer to that is very express, considering the role of professional conduct. It frowns at it expressly. So
So the position is that it is wrong, absolutely wrong.
yes, yes, by my own opinion, I think that is absolutely wrong.
Okay.
But I think the RPC also allowed for, I think, um, to be able to do the business of agriculture thereabouts, So save and except from that, I think all other businesses to earn income is ab initio wrong. I think the practice of law frowns at that.
All right, sir. Now, young lawyers have also raised certain concerns. You had addressed the issue of remuneration. Now, there is another one touching. You had earlier addressed one of the concerns peculiar to young lawyers in practice. That is the issue of remuneration. There is also another concern of young lawyers which has to do with harassment at place of work. Now, young lawyers have been raising this question or this concern for several years now. Now, how well have you been able to take care of this particular concern during your time as the chairman of the Young Lawyers Forum?
Well, I think during our time, I do not think we have. Um, I want to believe the harassment you're talking about is with respect to female young lawyers.
And also the male young lawyers, where they will be asked to do some things that are unlawyerly, probably go and buy food,
Okay, well,
go and do this, and then verbally insult them and some of those things.
during our administration, we had not had I do not think we have any complaint or cause from any young lawyers with respect to that. But while I was the secretary, I think in 2022, 2024, under the young lawyers from administration, we had a very serious complaint of harassment, you know, with respect to one of a young female lawyer. Steps were taken and reports were made by the forum to the leadership of the bar and then to the national body. And I want to believe that that situation has been sanctioned accordingly. If you have a situation of harassment, it's for the young lawyers to speak out. The reason why we are forum is for us to be able to ensure that our listening ear are very close or is very close to young lawyers so that they can whisper to us that which they cannot whisper outside. They cannot whisper to the public so that we can now take it upon our shoulder, and fight it as a forum. If you are keeping silent and then you are not saying anything, nobody is aware that you are going through that and that becomes part of you. I want to believe that it would not by technical standard qualify as harassment. That means you have chosen to live by that way of life. But for male young lawyers who their principal gets to use in a way that is not lawyer like, particularly asking them to do exercises relating to errands that are not professional, farming exercise, and having to work for and on behalf of their wife in the office and the likes of it. Such regulars should also speak out or speak in boldness and with courage and with a little bit of touch to the principal to reject to perform that. So it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Funny enough, sorry, unfortunately, we didn't have any reports during our administration like that. If we had, definitely would have taken the right step to address it. So that answers that, I believe.
Yes, sir. Earlier, when you were answering a particular question, you mentioned that your emergence as the chairman of the Young Lawyers Forum is not was not nurtured at your call, that it came as a result of you trying to achieve some things that the administration which you were the secretary of could not achieve, if
And a
I'm
call to
correct.
good service.
Yes, and a
Call to good
call
service, yes.
to good service. Now, as chairman of the Young Lawyers Forum, when you eventually became the chairman of the Young Lawyers Forum, you must have had some projects listed in your manifestos. How many were you able to achieve, and can you mention them to us?
Um, we had our manifesto in 2024, and I want to believe that the projects we have on that manifesto, say for yeah, or four that we're unable to achieve. And when we came into office, even the programs we didn't have on our manifesto, one way or the other, circumstantially, we were able to work around something and make that happen. Take, for instance, we initiated the first of its kind nationwide, tutorials for extents. We believe that why they are also around, to why they are also around to get to learn from courts and chambers. We thought of it to invite the very recent first class law school graduates. In fact, in the maiden edition, we invited the overall first one of the overall first class and of the subsequent year to come and take them. And that happened in our bar center. That was done in our manifesto. And I think that happened to be one of our achievements. We also tried to bring to existence programs on that the academic board, and we worked on we had a discourse on aviation, the operational and legal challenges, of all of this flight variation in the aviation system. And we proceeded to the usual Shegwandere competition where we discussed about a review of community service, and we also, in subsequent programs, we had enlightening discussion on sports abrasion, and we also proceeded to Shegwandere annual competition where we also had another debate. Let's say debate. This time around, we included students, and that that for the academic board. We also had Know Your Law session. There's a session we tagged as Know Your Law, that during our meetings, our monthly meetings, we invite one of our very notable senior to come and take us, on the new RPC, maybe rule by rules. And that was done by Mr. OLAYIWOLA'S, a former chairman of the Ibadan Bar. So we also had the knowledge exchange program where we had webinar on energy transition and future of oil. We also have understanding the current regulatory transactional realities of the electricity sector. Some of these fields we believe are, are the modern and the modern aspect of the profession. And the knowledge exchange program, the knowledge exchange board actually started with the responsibility of attaching a young lawyer to a senior lawyer for the purpose of mentorship. Because if as a young lawyer you are unable to find a firm, to for mentorship, the forum also look at situations of attaching a young lawyer to a very senior lawyer for the purpose of mentorship. And but we were unable to toe this path, because of some situational hurdles that lingered from the past administration into this administration. So we came up with a knowledge exchange webinar session um, um, for these two modern aspects of law, and that is energy law aspect and the electricity law. So we had other board of legal assistants, which are done fantastically well. That they are in charge of this um they are in charge of this kind of interview. We had knowledge exchange. We also have situations of exchanging knowledge where we interview senior members of the bar for on courtroom ethics, um, on challenges in the law practice, while also surviving the orders of matrimonial duties. And then we also have politics and law. How do you survive, you know, how do you survive the orders, the complexity revolving around being a lawyer, and being a politician. That's an instance where you are a lawyer, you have to uphold justice, and you're an AG, you have to also, as a political appointee, you have to also do the bidding of your principal. So we had situations like that. We also have visitations to legal aid offices in Oyo State with the aim of assisting the commission with their load of cases. This was also done by the Board of Legal Assistants. We also interviewed indigent inmates with the aim of representing them in courts, represented indigent inmates and secured the release of about four of them. The Board of Legal Assistants also coordinated the YLF Prince Latif Fagbemi Pro Bono Scheme, which is sponsored by the Learned Sikh JCI Senator Mutalobi Ojo Adebayo SAN. We also organized seminars in three secondary schools in Ibadan: St. Anne's Secondary School, Molete Ibadan, and Loyola College. Loyola College Ibadan, Government Secondary School, on the rights of the Nigerian child. We also invited to deliver a lecture on the. We also invited to deliver a lecture on the rights of a girl child at St. Teresa Girls School, okay, and there are several of them, particularly for the Board of Legal, and we will also have a representation at the Nigeria Bar Association Annual General Conference, where we ensure that the sponsorship of our members for accommodation and transportation between year 2024 and 2026. That is about two annual general conferences. Is with the summit that we also had at the Port Harcourt for the NBA YLF. We are also present at the NBA section on legal practice. We ensure that all of these mobilization and accommodation was not a problem. If we are not doing 100% of this, will not be we have never done less than 50%. Then we also had social programs, at the end of the year party to ensure that we're able to network, know ourselves, and discuss. And that is always being sponsored by Mr. Shegun Olusegun Abayomi. We had the Build Your Library campaign program where where young lawyers are privileged to buy law reports at discounted price of 50% for online, and a discounted price of 20%, 50% for online and 20% on print. It means that if it is 10,000, you are paying 5,000 for online, and you are paying 8,000 for the hard copy. So you are building your library while you are buying monthly. And we also secure that was a program that was commenced under the former chairman Sonia Boluwatife, and then we were able to sustain it. And we also introduced a 50% discount for members of the forum on Legopedia to also assist members in building their library. That was an addition. And then we had a symposium. We have a quick law diary note, which is where I'm glancing through our notable achievements right now, where we have quick laws, all reflecting at the footnotes of each pages of the diary. Recent quick laws, recent case laws, notable ones, or at the introductory page and at the footnote. And then we just got the diary um some few days ago, and this is it here where I'm glancing through some of these achievements. We also have the sport board program where we had a very wonderful 2 days sport event tagged the sport fest involving football teams of other forum and the legal department of law enforcement agency. It's for the first time featured the free health medical checkup, an extensive medical checkup, not just a random one. It was free. It was covered. We had an award night after party. We had the Ministry of Health presence. We had it featured first marathon of its kind, male and female, all the way from the NYC Secretariat to the Olubado Stadium, and it's usually in the honor of a very wonderful NSC, Mr. Abiodun, Adediran Olatunji SCN. So we have we also put in place, I think I said it before, situations to ensure that members are properly remunerated, in the course of seeking for employment, or while making inquiry from us, if some of the firms they are intending to work with should is a place that they can go to, and we give them necessary recommendation. We don't need to come out and say that, yeah, we want to blacklist any firm, but we urge young lawyers to please, young lawyers or new week who might come across this interview at any point in time when you wish to work in any law firm, consult the leadership of the forum as at the time you are seeking for such employment, so that you can be properly guided. So I think I want to lay it cool for that to have answered your question, Mr. Epong. So
You have only mentioned your achievement or the items you were able to see through. What about those ones that you were unable to do? Do
okay,
you have any ones that you were
yes,
unable to do?
yes. I think while we're coming in, we looked at health insurance, and then there was also supposed to be a trip to Ikogosi. I think there's other socials, but I think um, we can correct that to say that that has been achieved, because during our AGC we had a boat cruise, or is it yacht cruise, that it is referred to, where we have young lawyers um, in a mini yacht kind of boat, and then for 2 hours on the island, everybody was networking, dancing, and so we're supposed to have a trip to Ikogosi. I think that was part of it. We could not do that. I think basically because we wanted to be sure of security as at that time, and we are also we also looked at some of these programs. The forum is not that financially buoyant. So before you go on some of this program independently, if it is not attached to some of these national programs, sometimes it becomes difficult to raise finance. And when you put out some of these programs, you are unable to get members of the forum to individually pay for themselves, because they are still struggling. So that was one of the hurdles that we faced in the process of fulfilling that. But for the health insurance, in fact, we got a very respected senior of the bar who had agreed to fund the health insurance by making an immediate deposit of 50%. And that I discussed it with him sometimes in the month of I think July or August last year, when we were still very much in office. And that program was close to being achieved. But when we invited um, insurance companies, they were in our meeting, they gave reports to the house. We already had an agreement, and when they would come back with their terms, they had changed some of these conditions. And situations of, if you have had a report ratified, you cannot go against that. That means that you are not of firm leadership. So we told them this cannot be done. And you have to come back to give your report again, so that the house will ratify. And we didn't see them since then. So the in fact, the senior was already willing, was had requested for the partnership or agreement for the modus operandi of payment, because he's someone who enjoys or who cherish the welfare of young lawyers. He doesn't take that for granted, and even Twitter is a witness, to the happenings, to the good happenings in that office for young lawyers, and he's no other person than the very respected Mr. Hakim Agbaji. So the hurdle we faced in not achieving that did not come from the incapability of the executive, or from not founding a notable person who could fund that, but from the inexcesses of the proposed insurance company. So I think we were not able to achieve um, some of these, and it includes those two. I want to believe that it includes those two.
So, sir, you've been able to list your achievements during your time in office, and you've also been able to tell us about some of the projects that you could not achieve, probably because of finance and the insurance company's
Nexus.
dishonesty.
Mm.
Now, I think I was privileged to attend all of your meetings or most of your meetings, and at a point you mentioned that you were putting in place a workspace or a workspace for young lawyers, especially those that have just been called to the bar. And I do not know if that project has been fulfilled. Of course, I know it wasn't a part of your manifesto, but you mentioned it at one of your meetings. So I want to ask, has that project been achieved?
Yeah, cool. No, no, no. That's not a project that has been achieved, but you are correct to say that we don't have that on our manifesto. But when we got in office, we realized and were informed by the leadership of the bar that there's a workspace for young lawyers within the age of 0 to 7. Young lawyers are ordinarily or by constitution um, members who are called within the age of 0 to 7. And there's people we were informed of the existence of people's chambers at the law on Ring Road. It is expected that young lawyers between the age of 0 to 7 are to occupy the offices therein, at least maybe between the year of 0 to 4 and 5. And it is the belief of the leadership of the bar that within the age of 0 to 5, you must have been able to, uh, you must have had some sort of foundation in the profession with which you can accumulate your ability fund to, get your own or secure your office space. After proper privilege, then other young lawyers or new we can, now be a beneficiary. It's not a correct situation if you are already 8 years and above and you are still benefiting that people's chamber. So that's what we were trying to discuss then in one of those meetings that we attended, where we said that we'll look out for, we'll discuss with the leadership of the bar who to give us the permission to engage representatives, senior members of the bar who are in charge of that people chamber, so that we can accommodate new week persons who are new week, to benefit from using the office space, and to ensure that members who are already above the young layers age are persuaded or are discussed with, to basically just vacate so that we can accommodate a new person. So we couldn't achieve that because we are not the one directly in charge of people's chamber, but the representative of the bar. So it's difficult for us to find a balance of discourse, for them with respect to that. So we just have to lay it to rest. It's one of the things that we hope that um, the next administration will take care of. So thank you, Mr. Ipong, for that wonderful question.
Your administration started in 2024, if I'm correct,
You are not wrong, sir.
and this is 2026. It's supposed to span for 2 years.
Mm.
So it will mean that your administration is moving towards its end or should have ended by now.
Yes.
Because according to you, your administration started on the first day of June 2024. Now, my question is this: if your administration ought to have ended before now, why are you still in the office?
Yes. You know, when we came into office, we were elected. We were elected, and there were attempts, by, or not even attempt. There was a disqualification of my person, by um, the transition committee set up then, on the basis that I was going to be, I was not going to be a young lawyer at upon handing over. And we told them that, look, you cannot preempt the law. You understand? There was a guideline of not less than four, not more than five. And the constitution have said they should exclude the year of call. Our own argument is that as at that time I'm still five. Do you want to disenfranchise someone who is five from contesting? I'm laying foundation as to why um,
You are still in
we are
office.
still in office. Do you want to disqualify? And back and forth, there was dissenting opinion in the committee, and the bar had to step in, and we were allowed to contest on the basis that you should not disqualify a young lawyer from contesting. And we emerged, we were elected. Fast forward, we were inaugurated, and while we were wrapping up office, particularly in the month of I think April, towards the end of no, towards the end of I think March. I cannot be precise now, but I know the transition committee report from our own regime is dated I think first, and the election was supposed to come up on the 20th. Yes, that's for you to see that we had earlier prepared to vacate this office, and the leadership of the bar, we informed them of the processes, and we continued our internal mechanism, having discussed. The committee was constituted. A situation like this almost arose that um, one of the contestants should also be disqualified because was at the point of handing over. And we said no. In counting of age or year of call, it's either you are 1 year old or 2 year old. You can't be 1 year, 2 months, 1 year, 3 months. It's only when we want to come with all of these are malicious arguments that we interpret in that manner. So we wrote the bar. We suggested dates for elections. Suggested first, 20th of April, 30th of May. So that we can have the presence of the bar, during our election, so that it will not mean that although the constitution has the new amended constitution had expunged the supervision and monitoring role of the branch over the forum, but by all standard of morality and on the part of respect and culture, and technically on the part of law, one could still say that, oh, I'm still of the opinion that respect should still be given to the bar, and that is why I would say that by all standard of morality, culture, and respect, the forum can still be, classified of as being, under the branch leadership. But that express provision that used to be there in the constitution, it's no longer there. So we wrote these letters so that we can have their presence, and we didn't get response until sometimes towards the Eid. I think particularly on the day of the Eid, and we really want to appreciate the chairman of the bar for that. That is Mr. Ibrahim Lawa. We didn't get response up until that for our election to take place on the 12th of June. Yes. So, and when we saw that we needed to inform the house, we called for an extraordinary general meeting, inform the house of the situation that there's need to be proper handing over, and the leadership cannot be led in vacuum, cannot be left in vacuum. What do we do? members of the motion of the forum, we rub minds, and there was a motion that our tenure be extended until proper handing over to the new executive. The election was conducted on the 12th. It was to be supervised and monitored by the secretary of the bar, the publicity secretary of the bar, and the financial secretary. But without going into details, the election was conducted, and the chairman elect now, Mr. Tomiwa, emerged. So, and the practical time with which we can now hand over, because of the schedules of young lawyers, is on a Saturday, and that's why handing over had now been scheduled to come up for the 20th day of June at 9 a.m. At the Area Babola Center. That's when we had the proper handing over to members of the new executive. So the reason why we are still in power, I think I have explained that. So it's as a matter of circumstances beyond our control with respect to our transition. But without going into much details, here we are. We got the backing of the forum, to extend our tenure by um the extraordinary general meeting, and that to hand over on the 20th day of June. So I think that answers the question.
Thank you, sir. While you were narrating the reason why your tenure in office was extended, you mentioned that a transition committee was put in place, and that during that period, while the transition committee was working, there was need for you to write correspondences to the bar seeking the approval to do some things. Now, the question I want to ask here is that if the transition committee, if the transition committee that was constituted by the forum needs to get certain approval from the bar, does it mean that the forum is an appendage to the bar, or to the chairman, or the executive of the branch?
Now, the I think I've basically made comment with respect to this, but I would clearly and expressly state it. First, the transition committee was not seeking approval from the leadership of the bar. They were writing us, being the executives who constituted, the house constituted them. So there's need for a report back to the executives representing the members of the forum. So they wrote us that they had come up with their guidelines and the likes of it. And we were to update the bar, not as a matter of constitutional requirement, but because the constitution has ensured that as a member of the executive, the chairman of the forum has been co-opted. So the intention, if we look at it, of the drafters of that law is that when you are called upon to give report of happenings in the forum, you are expected to. So when they give us the report, our own intention is to notify, the bar and proceed, ask for their presence by virtue of representation at the election. So in the process, we got a correspondence that the committee should be disbanded, and we needed to now come together as executive, and that's why I would say that the office of the chairman, Mr. Ibrahim Lawal, they appreciated that, come together as executive, met with the chairman of the bar, and we were able to resolve to conduct our election on the 12th of June after correspondences from the forum to the bar. So it used to be expressly in the constitution that the forum is under the supervision and guidance of the bar, the branch. But since the amendment of 2025, the NBA Constitution has amended 2025, that express provision has been expunged. It then tells you that the forum, out of culture, respect, and morality, can be classified to be under the branch. But the Constitution has said that this express provision, that has placed you directly under the bar has been expunged. So that answers it.
All right, sir.
That answers it.
Thank you, sir. Earlier, you had mentioned that during your own election, during the time you were contesting to be the chairman of the forum, there were concerns or questions raised as regards your qualification to contest for the office, particularly that of your year of call. And that same question also was raised during this particular period where we have this newly elected chairman of the forum. That is that at a particular year of call, one cannot contest or one cannot hold office in the forum. Now, the question I want to ask is, what age at the bar will someone no longer be eligible to contest and hold office in the forum?
For me, I would like to answer that question. If I'm answering that question, I think I have to give analysis, few comments on that, because if I answer it expressly, persons who are not very conversant with the politicking of the bar, you know, may not understand, because I would just say eight. I would say 8 years post score. Once you're 8 years post score, you cannot longer, because constitution says 0 to 7. But when you have used the issue of contest, for you to contest, it implies that you are contesting for an election. And the bar constitution says that for the purpose of election, your year of course is to be excluded. So if you are 20, for instance, if I had not given this constitutional requirement, an ordinary person out there would think that that person is 6 years post score. But the constitution will say exclude year of core. That means the person is 5 years post score, because you have excluded the year of core. So what I will just answer in the express is that once you are 8 years post score, exclusive of your year of core, if you are 8 years, you can no longer contest the election at the forum level.
Okay. Okay.
So I think that answers it.
Yes, it does answer the question. Now, by virtue of the election that was held on the 12th day of June, you are going to be handing over office to that person. What are the things you have put in place to ensure smooth transition to the new executive? What are the things, the
Well,
modalities you put in place?
one of the reasons why we extended our tenure is for proper handing over. Even if the situation was or is almost being truncated by an individual, so without going into details, but we had tasked all members of our committee to come up with their report. We have received report from some of them who are very up and doing. We are yet to receive report from some of them, but the modalities that is in place is to ensure that all of these reporting details are properly transferred and handed over to the new executive committee of the forum, so that they can be able to see our lapses and our strengths, particularly our lapses, so that they can build on our strength, cover up our lapses while they are carrying out their own activities, and have a very wonderful and more elevating tenure. So that's basically the modalities that are then put in place.
All right, sir.
I don't know if that answers your question.
It appears to have answered the question. Now, the chairman-elect, the person of Mr. Tonuafade and his executive, do you have faith that that executive will consolidate on your achievement? Do you have faith in that executive?
Well, in that executive, I cannot answer in our entirety that I have faith in all of the executive, because in that executive I'd work with just three persons. I want to believe, and that is Mr. Tomafade, the chairman, Mr. Kayode Karim, the secretary, and Mr. Taiwo Oladipupo, the vice chairman. You know, when we got into office in 2024, one of the persons that I tasked to ensure that we come up with a program with respect to the modern practice, and that is aviation, is Mr. Tomafade. And we ensure that we had that mini symposium well attended sometimes in November. We came into power June. We didn't have proper planning. We started internship program. We planned for AGC in July. We came back in August. Then September, October, then we planned for the symposium. He was actively involved there, and so that shows that to an extent is somebody that I have, a reasonable percentage faith in. Mr. Kayode Karen, fantastic. The financial secretary on that forum. While we're handing over the financial report, will speak for itself. We were handed we had about 2 million handed over to us. The report will speak for itself, and in confidence. If you can have that kind of financial integrity and accountability, it's very pertinent and important that those two set of persons, out of all other persons, I know them very well, and I'm sure that they will do very well. So I want to believe that, in fact, Mr. Thomas Friday is somebody who has been Richard. I want to believe that they will do very well with respect to, consolidating on our own achievements, unless, the majority, other five, are otherwise. But I want to believe that everybody had seen how the administration, how we're able to achieve results. I had comment from past chairman, who says that I don't like your way, but I don't know how you get results. It is commendable. If some persons see us as persons who say stuff without being sieved, but the important is that we are getting results. You understand? So I believe in those persons that are particularly mentioned, and I hope that the rest of those persons who form those executives will join faith in all goodwill with the chairman and the secretary to do very well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. We're
Thank
grateful.
you for that elucidation. Now, during the period that you were the chairman of the forum, you were still running your own private practice. Am I correct?
You are not wrong, but you are not wrong. You may
Now,
ask.
now the question I want to ask is, how was it affecting your own private practice? Was it enhancing the growth of your private practice, or it was in a way diminishing the growth of your private practice? Or was it, if you want to put it on the scale, was it a balanced
It was not. It was
situation?
not a balanced situation. It was not. It was not. It was not improving anything. And I could say that because for me, when I want to do things, I put in my very best. And I could say that it tells on my practice. There are situations or there are instances where clients would have reached out to you, but you have done YLF. When you're supposed to be preparing process, and a member of the forum is being harassed. Take for instance the day we had the secretary of the board of legal being harassed. I think I was supposed to be attending to a client, and I had to leave. And since that day, I had not had cause to be called back for that brief. So it tells a lot there, but thankfully there's a partner who assists in our law firm, Mr. Epong, and your own person who assists to an extent before we fully establish our FM with respect to some of these briefs. But I think it took more of, especially when you're just going as a young lawyer and you're that busy with bar activities and forum activities, and you're not able to properly balance it because you feel like you want to be too committed, you want to get results. It tells. So I think that answered that.
All right, sir. What would be your advice to the new executive?
Financial integrity is paramount. In my executive, When you come in as executives, especially through elections, not all your campaign match, but when you are leaving and persons not from your camp can vouch for your financial integrity outside, is an achievement. Um, Persons who are not even up and doing can vouch for your financial integrity outside. They could say that any other thing I don't know, but for financial integrity, I think that is not that kind of person. Even when you are not on good shape with that person. So it is important when you can keep your financial integrity. You know that gives you a proper peace of mind to discharge your duty in your best capability. Important, and I was saying that if you already have that at the commencement of your administration, then you have a proper peace of mind to paddle the affairs of the forum. But imagine a situation where you have converted properties or funds of the forum or the bar for your own use, or you are taking it to your house, your offices. You will not have peace of mind to do your proper statutory work. So those situations, when you have financial integrity, you can achieve anything. Because even if, and aside from you as a chairman having financial integrity, you need to be able to make your ESCO see reasons why all of you have to have that, that features or that capacity. You should be able to make your other ESCOs understand that is as a chairman that look, you are not serving for reward of money. You are serving because it is a call for service, because you you want to carry the complaint or the grouse or the problem of people more than your own. That is how a leader thinks. You want to abandon yours and ensure that the members of the forum grouses are resolved. So you don't quickly run into a leadership that wants to benefit. You are now beginning to lead, or you hold an office where you are beginning to convert few cash into your account, into your pockets. Well, my financial secretary was somewhere saying something about me. I was not there, but senior members of the bar also said that I should just continue in the line or the style that I've been towing, especially with respect to financial integrity. So that is my basic advice to them. Adopt all sense of sincerity in finance, and then you have peace of mind to do your thing.
Thank you very much. We are glad to have listened to you and to have done this interview with you. It's a privilege to be called, and the privilege for the members of the forum. Now, as a way of wrapping up this interview with you, I would like to ask, or we would like to request that you give us a closing remark, probably summary of your activities as the chairman of the Young Lawyers Forum, things you have observed, and some of the excesses of the young lawyer, and what you want them to do going forward.
Anyway, one of the things I've noticed that pupillage is very important. While we were also very young at the bar, we have the opinion that if you are not properly remunerated, just get out. You get to learn the law in the course. What I've observed is that it is important, even as a young lawyer, you have a route that is notable for good practice. It brings you not only to have a very deep understanding of the knowledge of law, it brings you to a limelight. It brings you to limelight, sorry, in the professional sphere. Take for instance, you are you practice in Ibadan. You had your pupillage all your life, maybe your first 5 or 6 years with a very notable firm for good practice, what happens when you go other direction and you announce yourself? It is deemed that you are coming from a good background, whether or not you have been that assessed by that jury. So it is important. I would not say that if you are not being remunerated well, you should begin to manage. But populate is important. God forbid you want to prepare an appellant brief, you now begin to look for drafts. So if you know those things, you know that it's important for you. Just make sure that you are with a good firm. So I've observed that, and I've also observed that some members, young lawyers, I will not say members of the forum now, young lawyers see the forum or and the bar as being not providing solution to their needs in court. Maybe a situation that somebody was harassed, the bar, what do they even do there? It's not just meeting, they'll just talk, you know. Whether or not a lawyer is expected to pay due, at least at the branch level. So if you are paying and you cannot, it already give you right to, be an automatic member of that branch, and they feel like having an automatic right already, you are not making yourself available to come and substantiate or to come and see what is happening in that bar within you, then I do not see, I do not excellently see such person as being correct in reasoning for me, because but I've said earlier that it still falls back to your roots. If you are from a firm that they just help you pay processing fee, they have never taken you to that place, it might be difficult for you to understand that the bar speaks. The bar speaks. There are situations that when the bar speaks, the government trembles, the judiciary trembles, they fidget. So let us get involved, so that we can both paddle the bar and the forum to where it should be as against where it is now. So we believe to an extent we have elevated the bar, the forum, and we could see interest here and there, and we had even see persons from now, persons, not more, not two, who has indicated interest already. So that would be my observation, and we should not go there to serve for show off. Don't go and lead for show off. Don't be a media leader. Be a media that doings speak for you. Doings speak for you. So, and let me just quickly appreciate all members of the forum under our regime, and all members of the board, chairman and secretary. I would continue to repeatedly I will continue to appreciate the presence of Raid Mohammed Ali Khan and Nepong Epong. So Raymond Adebisi, also a wonderful person. We had and several other persons. I also want to appreciate the behind the scenes persons in this interview. Miss Angela E. Oguswa and Mr. Epongi Epong. I also appreciate you. I also appreciate the presence of Mr. Efe Adirogba, um, Miss Mufeishara Ajao, and Miss Victoria Adenike. All of those inspirations, we appreciate your presence. So thank you, and that will be our parting. And thankfully, we had been able to conclude this interview. Thank you and cheers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you,
Can we?
members of the Board of Legal Assistants. We are grateful. Thank you.